Hello everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and money color commentator. On today's show, monitoring your debt, part 4 in our series on the #1 New Year's resolution, getting fiscally fit. Well, welcome to the 4th segment, monitoring your debt. And what we want to do is we want to set up some basic milestones or benchmarks, red flags if you will actually, so that you can kind of see problems occurring and try to confront them early on so that you don't have problems later on. And one of those is looking at you're basically coping with the credit problems you already have. I love this, how they're the doctor of credit. They're the doctor of debt. It says that people who call themselves credit doctors claim they can restore your credit reputation overnight. Don't believe it, especially if they promise you that you won't be required to make any changes in your spending habits. This approach never is more than quackery. And the only reason I warn you is because you wind up sometimes, supposedly they're getting paid by reducing your debt, but bottom line, there's going to have to be some behavioral changes. If you've been in debt for a long time and it's your lifestyle, you're going to have a lifestyle confrontation. You're going to have to sit there and say, listen, I need to reduce my debt and get it to a manageable place and then eliminate it, which is the ultimate goal. So when I'm looking at being proactive, I want to be proactive. We talked about in the last segment, using home equity. If we use it prudently, if we use it wisely, we can manage people out of debt and get them into cash flow. Remember, sometimes when we're sitting at the front end of a really desperate situation, we're going to have a major garage sale. We're going to sell everything we can sell. We're going to look at our budget and we're going to start cutting it down. Oh, you don't have a budget? Well, then we're going to start installing a budget into your life that's going to we're going to monitor it and we're going to hold your feet to the fire. We're going to bring some accountability to you because we really want you to be successful. So I have a big garage sale. I'm going to cut down. I was surprised. One of our clients spent $5,200 on their lunches and Starbucks and so forth. There's nothing wrong with lunch. There's nothing wrong with Starbucks, but they can't afford to spend that kind of money. They started taking a bag lunch to work, started to look at their reduction of their grocery bills, trying to watch how they spend ancillary and discretionary monies. That's when you start to become awake to the situation because you want to be awake now. You don't want to wake up when the crisis is upon you and you can't manage yourself out of it. Now, think about this. I want to be proactive, but to be proactive, I might want to look at some basic ideas, and here are some of what I call the red flags, something that you can look to, say, am I in trouble? Well, you know you're in trouble. The most effective way to handle evolving credit problems is to recognize the danger signs. And one of the first danger signs is your debts, including your mortgage, have now exceeded over 40% of your income. Think about that. If your debt, your mortgage, or a second mortgage, and on top of that, your credit card payments and your auto payments exceed 40%, that's a red flag, you're already in the danger zone. Number 2, you're making only the minimum payment. Well, if you're making only the minimum payment on your debt and you're paying double-digit returns, like maybe your APR is at 11%, maybe it's as high as 19 to 20%, you're paying way more than you should pay for that. And to get out of that and just pay the minimum, yes, you've maintained your credit, but you're reducing your ability to get credit, and you may need it sometime when it's really needful, and you won't be able to get it because your balance, all your cards are actually maxed out. They're looking at your total income between you and your spouse, and it's just not enough to cover it, and they're going to start really shutting down your ability to get new credit. Another one, number 3, you're skipping some payments every month. So all of a sudden now I'm not only not paying minimum payments, I might be skipping payments every so often just because I don't have the cash flow to make the payment. If you're doing that, if you're doing minimum payments all the time or you're skipping some of the payments, those are red flags. You're already in trouble and you're heading for some serious red ink and you're drowning in debt and you need to reverse and be proactive and take a hold of the bull by the horn and really do something about it. You've borrowed up to your credit limit on one or more of your cards. Now all my revolving credit cards are already maxed out. I'm already skipping some payments. The ones I do pay, I'm paying minimum on. I'm already knowing that my total indebtedness on payments per month exceed the 40% threshold. Those are all red flags that I'm in trouble. By the way, we find many clients are already all 4 of these red flags. They're already in trouble. Then you're looking at using your savings or investment accounts to pay your monthly bills. Your income isn't good enough between you and your spouse, so now you're saddled with going ahead and dipping into your investments. I have people going in taking loans from their 401k retirement plans to pay for their lifestyle on a monthly basis because they don't have the cash flow to pay not only their credit, but their normal bills, grocery, gasoline, insurances that are mandatory. You got to remember, this is where we're at right now, and we have to be able to stave off consumer spending, and we have to look at it from a discipline point of view. And people say, Steve, it sounds so harsh. Well, listen, we're not trying to be harsh. We're just trying to be helpful. So when you look at the ability, you're using your savings or your investment account, you're paying money out of your 401k for your daily living. That's a red flag. You're in serious problem. You need to be, and the last one, you're putting off essential medical and dental treatment. This is really where it really comes. I can't afford to go to the dentist to get the crown. So I have to watch how I drink things. It's too cold, it's too hot. I have to be careful on what I eat over on one side of my mouth. I know I should get it done, but a crown in America costs between low at the end of the high 600s all the way up to $1,000 to have a crown replaced. And I don't really have, I'm going to have to either come out of my pocket through my HSA account, health savings account, or my dental account it'll pick up some of it, but I still have a chunk of change to pay. So people start putting out things that they actually need. And dental is one of the biggest ones, especially in senior retirement. Don't blow that off. That is directly connected. Your dental health is directly connected to your cardio health, shockingly enough. So these are the 7 different red flags. If you're in this area, you could be heading for bankruptcy. Now, speaking of bankruptcy, it should be your last absolute solution. It should not be a solution. We should be able to help and walk you through it if you're willing to do the work and become disciplined. Most people that are in serious, they think it's going to take between 2, it could be up as 5 years, but you didn't file and you got into a discipline, and it'll set your habits for the rest of your life on a good fiscal footing. Now, what about bankruptcy? Well, sometimes we just can't do any other, we have to go ahead and file. You file a petition in the federal or state court saying that you're insolvent, which means that you have no assets to pay your debts. Now remember, have I sold off everything at the garage sale? Have I sold off every asset, all the jewelry that I had? I did everything I know how to do, and I still am in problems and I'm going to have to file. You work out a repayment plan with your creditors and your court. Can I work out my repayment plan? Can I get them to give me more time? Is it worth giving me more time? Sometimes it's better just to call it a day, get the relief that you need right away. I don't like to do it, but sometimes you have clients that just need to go that way. You're discharged from your debts and you settle them typically for less than the full value of what you owe, which is great. But remember, not everything is dischargeable in bankruptcy. Alimony could be one of them. Student debt could be another. You just have to take into account that bankruptcy is a last solution. It shouldn't be a knee-jerk reaction first. That's why I bring up these 7 flags. This is why we're looking at these things, because I want you to be able to look at this and say, this is where I need to go, Steve. These are your red flags that'll tip you off before you get over here. Now, once you've said, let's start working on this. So as I said, if I have equity position in my home, I'm willing to use some of that to get my debt level down and to give myself cash flow to repay. I like to repay personally. Sometimes you say, I want to pay the card that has the biggest, highest interest. But sometimes it really gives me faster cash flow if I knock off the smaller accounts first. Then I can start to attack it. It depends upon the math. There's no true rule of thumb here. So when I'm looking at it, I'm trying to figure out a way, how can I go ahead and make my life where debt isn't ruling my life? And by the way, the only way I can do it is I have to be able to sit there and say, is debt consolidation my last and final move or step before I run into bankruptcy? And when you look at debt, look at this pic that I have here. A gentleman with a sledgehammer trying to crack the debt. He's already hit the ball several times and isn't breaking it. When you're chained, you're a debtor. Listen, debt destroys equity built over time. DEBT. When you're thinking about any equity you have, your debt is destroying it. So what you want to do is get out. Don't be a debtor, right? I'd rather be a lender. I don't want to be a debtor. When I'm looking at real issues of being proactive, I want to be able to look at every option, whether it's sell-off of valuables, go ahead and have a great garage sale, whatever I'm looking for, I'm trying to get to a place where I can reduce my debt and bring a cash flow to my situation. And if I can do that and do it proactively, I won't have to worry about my bankruptcy or the 7 red flags I talked about. And don't forget to watch our next segment on repairing and restoring your credit. Part 5 in our series on the #1 New Year's resolution, getting fiscally fit. And keep in mind, before moving forward with any of the ideas on our show, Always check with your tax consultant, legal counsel, or financial advisor. You've been watching Steve Savant's Money, the name of the game.